And there was it's like something behind the door. I'm like, what the heck is this, right? So I'm kind of pushing, and I'm yelling in the door.
And no chain or anything?
No chain, nothing,
okay.
no. I'm like, hey, hello, anybody here, right? No response whatsoever. I'm like, okay. So I'm pushing. I can feel it's like whatever. It's just kind of soft. So I just push a little bit, right? I get it open about 1.5 feet, and I stick my head in, and there's. Thinking about a career in real estate, or maybe you're already in and you've been grinding for a while, but you feel like you're stuck? Hey, come hang out with a couple of guys who have been there, done that, and who love showing agents all the secrets for free so you can get where you want to go. Come on in. Everyone's welcome at the Lockbox Lounge. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lockbox Lounge. We are so glad that you guys are here. We're going to get some more great information to put into your pockets to help you guys become successful agents as you continue to grow your business. So, welcome, Rick.
Yeah, welcome, Anthony.
Yeah. So, we're excited to get going.
Yeah. In our first episode, we were talking about just kind of as an introduction, right? Who we are, what we're doing here. And we talked about some just very introductory, as an agent, as a new business owner, kind of some things to do. But I was actually kind of curious because you came up with the name Lockbox Lounge.
Yeah.
So what was your idea behind that?
Well, every time we go to a large real estate convention, right, there's always the big coach who's up on stage, and that guy's up there, and almost most of the time, especially it seems like it always happens in Vegas for some reason, but most of the time, after he's up there on stage, he'll go to the local bar or whatever. He'll pick a bar or something that they'll stand there. And I say not him, any of the coaches do this, right? They all do this. They go to the bar, they stand there, they get a drink, and then people just start hovering around him just so that they can pick his brain and get that little bit of information. Or sometimes it's just, I've done it, just to sit there and listen to hear what other people are asking, right? Yeah. Because if somebody's asking a question, there's 10 or 100 other people who have that same question who were too afraid to ask or couldn't ask or whatever. So it's always fun just to kind of be in that environment and whatnot and stuff. So that's kind of how I see it, is that's where we're here so you guys can pick our brains. Right? You can pick our brains. We want to have you here on the show. We want to hear what issues you're dealing with. We want to invite you so that we can interview you, help coach you through whatever challenge that you're facing, and allow everybody else to listen in on that conversation and expand.
Yeah, I think too, one of the things I appreciate of the perspective that we're coming in this with is it's practical information. Useful. We're not talking about making $1 billion a year and how to ramp up a whole, company of employees. Right. It's really about how to do well in what you're doing. And I think too, something I appreciate about the lounge kind of perspective and the approachability of that is we're pretty casual setup, right? Yeah. We're not doing a bunch of editing. We're here and we're just kind of talking through things. Right. I look forward to maybe having some guests on too. And absolutely. And of course, if you have any questions out there, we'd love to invite you to fill out a form at lockboxlounge.com, and we would love to have you on the show, chat with you about challenges you might be having or an experience or questions that come up, or just try to help you out through what you're working on.
Right. And you'll be able to listen to this also, not just on YouTube. Some of you are watching this on YouTube, but any podcast platform that you use, you can download the podcast. And I don't know if you know this, but there's actually a study that was done that said that people who listen to podcasts, like when they're commute or they're driving around or they're working out or whatever, they listen to podcasts, actually make a significantly higher income.
Oh, really?
For some reason. Yeah, I don't know how they correlated all of that and who they interviewed, but it makes sense to me because you're using your time instead of sitting there listening to some, I don't know, goofy, weird stuff and watching cat videos. You're educating yourself, seeking knowledge, you're expanding, you're growing, and trying to become the best that you can. So it makes sense to me. Yeah.
So we're promising that we'll make you $1 million. No, we can't promise that. I'm just kidding.
cut, edit that. No, hey, no promises, right? Because we don't know what you guys are going to do. But we really hope, we really hope with the information we provide.
Yeah, help with tools and solutions and problem solving.
That you will be among those who really succeed and have a good experience in this industry. So, yeah.
Awesome. So outside of the Lockbox Lounge and inviting listeners to come on and come on to the show, I wanted to ask you, since you've done coaching for years, what is kind of the top 2 or the top, most important thing that you've seen in your experiences that maybe you can give your advice? What's your top advice that you could give?
Yeah. So in our last episode, I talked about the importance of having a CRM, right? But again, if a CRM is a place to have all of your data, but if you don't know how to market to anybody, you're not in business, right? So here's what I want you to do is most of you take out your real estate license and look at it, right? Matter of fact, I have mine right here. I'm going to show you. Yep.
I don't have mine in my pocket.
Yeah, no, I got mine right here in my wallet.
Is it the plastic one, right?
It is. And so, I don't know if you can see this right there at the bottom. Well, you can't really see, it's too blurry. Yeah. But it says, and this is for state of California, obviously, but probably your state too, because most states have salesperson and broker. It doesn't matter. They're both the same, in my opinion, from a sales and marketing perspective.
Yeah.
It says salesperson, and I'm here to tell you that they lied.
Oh, yeah.
They lied to you. You are not a salesperson. I don't know why they put that on there. Drives me crazy. You know this? You're not a salesperson. It's true.
So if you're not sales, what is it?
Well, how can you sell anything if you can't get any business? And how do you get business? You have to be a marketer.
Marketing.
Right? Marketing is number 1 in this business if you want to have any kind of success. You got to figure out how to make that happen, how to grow your business, how to get those leads, how to convert the leads. What different devices can you use, whether it's in person, it's online, is it mail, is it, funnels, is it all of the stuff that everybody talks about. If you can't market, there are no sales, so you're not a salesperson, right? So that's probably the most important thing that people have to understand is understanding marketing.
Super interesting. So do you find value in studying outside of selling real estate and understanding the sales process of real estate? How do you suggest people learn more about marketing outside of your brilliant coaching?
Yeah. Look, there's so many good publications and sources that are out there. I'm going to give you a little bit of a warning. There's a lot of places out there that will give you, hey, join our course and we're going to,
in the master class, right? That's been popular too, right? Of marketing.
One of the things that I am a fan of is I'm a fan of masterminds. And when I say mastermind, that means being part of a group, a larger group that gets together on a regular basis and bounces ideas off of each other. I'm okay with paid masterminds to be part of that. If you're not part of a mastermind, that's okay. But then that means you're a lone ranger, right? And there's a couple of things about that. If you're a lone ranger, then nobody knows that you exist. And what I used to say was same thing if you're a secret agent, right? It's cool to be a secret agent if you're James Bond, but not if you're a real estate agent. Everybody has to know what you're doing. I had a limousine that had my name and my picture and everything all over the side of it for years. And people would just pull me over on the side of the street and say, sell my house. And I'm like, okay.
That's hilarious.
Right? But, and that was one way to do it. As I look back on it, I'm like, I don't know, maybe. Right. But yeah, you have to be able to get out there and market yourself in a way that sets you apart from everybody as well. Right. So standing out, doing something different, being different than everybody else. You'll hear this in the real estate business of you should be swimming the opposite direction of all the other fish, right? Because there's a lot of fish, a lot of real estate fish that are out there, and you're trying to do exactly the same thing. And if you look at the statistics, all those fish are broke,
So that's like the 80-20 rule, right? So if you haven't heard it before, the 80-20 rule says that 20% of the people are doing 80% of the work, right?
Yeah, the Pareto principle, yep.
Yeah, and there's some, California, we're in 2024 right now, I think it's like 450,000 agents in California.
Oh, something crazy.
The number is insane, right?
Yeah.
So the vast majority of those agents aren't actually selling. I have my license, I haven't been selling.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's people like me out there, right? And so the idea of setting yourself apart and doing something that's unique, right?
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of perspective on these numbers. And this is something that you should know wherever you are. You need to have data, right? Understanding the data that is around you so that you can figure out how to use it in your favor. I'm in Orange County, California. In Orange County, California, as of a couple months ago when I last looked, there was an estimated 40,000 active real estate agents, dues-paying real estate agents
in the county,
in Orange County, just in Orange County. That's not counting the ones that bleed in from L.A. and Riverside and San Bernardino and San Diego.
Yeah,
just in Orange County. The challenge with this is that if I go into the MLS and I look at the number of homes that sold last month, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of, through the MLS, there's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1,800 or 1,900 homes in Orange County sold through the MLS, and there's 40,000 agents. There's some people that are not getting paid. Right. Guess what? I sold 3 of them.
Yeah.
So if I'm selling 3 of them and there's only that many homes being sold out of 40,000 agents, it's just, a testament to being able to stand apart and be different in what you do. Right.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Go ahead. You going to say something?
No.
He wasn't going to say something. He was going to say something. So I'll keep talking then. One of the ways that you do that is you have to identify a niche, right? You've got to have a specialty that you specialize in, whatever it is. And I've had people, they say to me, Anthony, gosh, what should I specialize in? And I say, well, what are you passionate about? What's important to you? What do you enjoy doing? And a lot of those things can be translated into real estate related stuff, right? Like, so we've had people who were like avid dog lovers, and all of their marketing had dogs on it. They got hired by a bunch of people to help them with their real estate, not because of them, because of their dog pictures, because people love dogs way more than they love people, right? We've had people who are horse property specialists. We've had people who are listing specialists. I'm a listing specialist. I very rarely work with buyers anymore. I refer buyers out mostly. But becoming a listing specialist, but not even just a listing specialist, but what kind of listing specialist? There's luxury property, there's probate, there's condos, right? In every town, there's the condo king or condo queen or something, right? And that sort of thing. So becoming a specialist in what it is that you do is critical in this industry. You need to be thinking about it, especially if you're earlier in your career. If you just go along and you say, well, here, let's play this. We're going to do a little role play here, right?
All right.
Okay.
This is not planned. It's
not planned at all. So are you the listing specialist here? And right away they're going to go, oh, they need somebody to list a house. And they go, oh, yes, I am. I list houses. And then I say to them, I go, oh, that's too bad because we were looking for a buyer specialist. And they go, oh, well, no, I do buyers too.
I'm that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, okay, well, so then is this area like your specialty? And they go, yeah, this like the back of my hand. I go, oh, that's too bad because we were looking at 3 neighborhoods over. And they go, well, no, I can do that too.
Right.
And you go, okay, so so do you know all about houses, helping us buy houses and then getting a good deal? Yes, I'm the best. Okay, great. Well, that's too bad because we're looking at condos, and every agent tries to be everything to everyone, right?
Because you're chasing that dollar, right? That next commission, that next sale, I got to pay my bills, right?
Right, absolutely, yeah. And I don't blame anybody for doing it.
Sure.
But I'm going to give you a different perspective here in a minute. So kind of the analogy that I would use is if you're sitting there and you go, okay, well, I am a first-time buyer specialist, right? but boy, I'm going to take whatever I can get.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know for a fact, if I sit here and I hold a bucket right here, there's drops right here that are going to drop down, and every single one of them is a first-time buyer, right? But then they come randomly and sporadically and whatever. So I just got to be patient and wait. And if I wait, I will catch that first-time buyer deal. Well, I look over here and I see a drop starting to form. So what I do is I run over here and I go, oh my gosh, there's a luxury listing drop that's about to drop. And I run across the room and I try to catch that drop. I end up missing that drop. And I turn around, oh no, there's the first-time buyer drops. And I run over here and I go, oh, there's a probate drop over here. Oh, let me, and then you're running around all over the place and you catch none of them. You catch none of them. And it's so frustrating. It's so disheartening when you're like, I'm working so hard running all over the place, when all you have to do is stay focused on one thing, right? And so, here's a good example is probate. Okay, I have been doing probate for 20 years,
which is a pretty unique. Out of all the years I was working, I never knew anybody that was working probate specifically. Yeah. I would see listings come up, and I'd see all the specific terms, which looked really overwhelming when you're looking for a buyer potentially.
Right.
But yeah, so what? How did that happen?
Well, when I started in real estate, I knew, because again, title insurance, escrow, mortgage, I knew I had to have a niche of some kind.
Yeah.
So I was looking around. I didn't know. I was kind of like, first-time buyers. That's good, but when the rates go up, they go away and this and stuff. So I'm trying to find something a little more consistent. I got a flyer on my desk. I'd come to a probate training. What's probate?
Yeah.
No idea. I went to a probate training and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is amazing. I heard what they had to say. I learned everything about it. I went, oh my gosh. And so from that point forward, I became a student of doing probate sales. But I'm going to share with you something that nobody ever talks about. I've never heard anybody tell this little aspect of real estate coaching. When you specialize in something, you are way more valuable to everybody else. Okay, let me clarify that for you. When I'm at an event, I'm at a networking event or whatever, and people say, hey, so well, what do you do? I say, oh, well, I help people liquidate the family home and make sure that they get top dollar when it happens so grandma doesn't get ripped off. And they go, what? And I go, well, I'm a probate specialist. And they're like, oh, wait, what? And now they want to ask me questions about what does this mean, right? By contrast, there's been 100 events that I went to, and they go, hey, so what do you do? And I go, oh, I'm a real estate, and I don't even finish the word, and they're off getting a drink somewhere, right?
There was a stat I heard once that real estate agents are seen as like maybe one under, or sometimes even worse than used car salesmen.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So and because there's so many of us,
right?
There's so many of us that, the joke is if I, bent over, picked up a rock, covered my eyes, and threw it into a crowd, odds are pretty good I'm going to hit a real estate agent, right? So I would just say, okay, these are the things that I would say as I go, I help make sure the grandma doesn't get ripped off when it comes time to selling the family home. And what would inevitably happen is these people, a lot of times, were higher status people, right? Because we'd go to city or other local, functions where there's, mayors and council people and lawyers and judges and all sorts of stuff. And they go, oh, wow, okay. Can you do me a favor? I know you specialize in probate, but can you help my daughter find a house? I'm like, let me check. Yeah. Okay, I know you specialize in probate, but we have one of our rental properties we need to sell. It's not a probate. Can you help us do that? And the reason, and people would ask me to do this stuff because they see me as a specialist. It's almost like if somebody's a brain surgeon, right? And you go to a holiday party and somebody brings a friend who's a brain surgeon, and you go, I know you're a brain surgeon, but I got this thing on my toe, right?
Hey, let me show you this thing I got.
Right. Yeah, because you trust the brain surgeon, right? People trust somebody who has a specific niche.
Yeah.
So even if you said, I specialize in helping people get their property sold, that for horses that own horses, hey, I know you specialize in horse properties, but I've got a house over here. It's a mansion. There doesn't have any horse stalls on it. Can you still help us sell it? Sure, I guess. Right. So it's really important to have a specific area that you want to focus in and stay focused on it.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get distracted and you're bing bonging all over the place and get nothing done.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think talking to students coming into the industry, I think that's one of the things that they just don't know about. Right. And so they'll think about selling homes, they'll think about earning that commission and got to pay the bills and I got to sell a house, but they don't have the breadth of knowledge or understanding of how many different types of property or different uses there are. And so I think a lot of that overlaps. You were talking about standing out and marketing. And I think one of the pieces for me that people miss oftentimes when you're marketing a property, when you're looking at potential clients, that you have to hone in on what target market you're looking at. So if you're looking for a first-time home buyer, that looks very different than the investor. And so when you specialize in a niche market, for me, kind of trying to make it a little bit more personal too, if you're selling properties day in and day out, and even you're making good money, but you're miserable at the end of the day, at some point you're going to lose that momentum, right? You're going to give up because it's not fulfilling for you. So I encourage my students, say, find something you're interested in. And if you're going to be enjoying real estate, enjoying that business, focus in on that niche because then you're interested in it, you're invested in it. If you want to invest yourself or you want to live in a mansion yourself, learn that part of the industry so that you can focus in and you know what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. I think too with the idea of target market, I've had students say too, like, I really hope to sell warehouses one day. And so I'm going to start for a couple years in homes. And I was like, well, why would you do that? Because if you're going to be a specialist in warehouses, that's a completely different target market than you'd be looking at for investors or even tenants for warehouses. And so to change gears, to change your business model midstream a couple years in, it's like you're starting over. And so I love the idea of the niche market and being able to focus in. Now, of course, you don't know what you don't know. Right? And so whether it's homes or condos, or you mentioned mansions versus condos, I mean, that's a big difference, right?
Absolutely.
Geographical locations, different cities, even within different cities. Santa Ana is not too far from here. It's an old city. It's a huge city. There's, not so great areas, and there's, multi-million-dollar mansions in that city.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes when you're in a certain area, there's even block to block, there can be a big difference.
Right.
I grew up in Long Beach, same way. Mm-hmm. You're on the ocean, and then 4 blocks away, it can be pretty rough.
Yeah.
And so those different niche markets, I think, is huge. I think that's great advice. To focus in.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have some resources too, right? Regarding
there's a few. So some good books to read as you start to kind of build up your marketing skills. One of them is called The One Thing, and it's from Gary Keller. And this is on the power of focus, right? And that's actually another book by Mark. I can't remember his name. The Power of Focus. Look that book up. Here's the thing that I tell people. I say, you're driving down a highway, and it's dark, right? You've got headlights that only go out 50 feet, but you still are driving down that road, right? Because you're focused on where you're trying to get to, and if you stay focused on where you're trying to get to, you're going to get there safe, even with a little bit of light ahead of you, because you don't know how you're going to get there necessarily. You know that there's a road there. You don't know where every turn and every bump and every little potential problem could be.
Sure.
But you're going to get there. You only need to see so far. But if you keep your focus way off in the distance, then it's almost like it pulls you to it, right? If you're going, gosh, I got to get across this Grand Canyon. Don't know how I'm going to do it.
Right.
I don't know how I'm going to get there. I'm not a rock climber and my knees aren't so good. So how am I going to get there? I don't know. But that's where I'm going to get to. And you just have that level of focus, you're going to get there, and you're going to, and you'll figure it out along the way. It might take long. It might not be quick. You never know. Helicopter might drop down and say, hey, you need a ride. Yeah. Sure. Let's go. Right. And bam, you're there. The other one is The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. So this is an older book by Gary Keller also. I like Gary Keller's books. They're good books. They have really good information in there because they kind of give you some real good clarity on some of the certain things, the steps that you need to take to just, again, to have a good real estate career. It has more of a focus on becoming that mega producer and building a big team and all that stuff, which doesn't always work for a lot of people. But it's like you said, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
If you know about those things, doesn't mean you have to do them, but at least now you have knowledge, right? And then finally, one of my favorite marketing books of all time is called The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. And it has the different, things. The first law off the top of my head is be first. Be first at whatever it is, right? So, whoever it was, the first person who came out with a microwave, right? They made a killing,
right?
Because they came out with the microwave. But then now there's a second microwave,
right?
So the second law is be different. So you can't be first. You're not the first real estate agent out there.
Right.
We know that. Be different. And so somebody came out with a microwave that had a popcorn button on it. Oh my God, we need the microwave with a popcorn button on it. And they made a killing, right? And then there's, all these other different rules about marketing, and it just helps you understand the psychology of the consumer as it relates to how it responds to marketing. And then actually one other really great book, it's, it's not The Greatest Showman. Well, I'll have to save it for another time, but right. Because it's based on P.T. Barnum and his marketing and advertising technique. So he would say, and I'll give you just kind of my basic summary as I recall it. The carnival's coming to town, right? Well, they could just plaster flyers all over the place that says the carnival's coming to town.
Right.
And people show up, maybe whatever, right? However, when the carnival's on its way into town and then one of the elephants accidentally escape and then tramples the mayor's flower garden, and the police have to round up this elephant to get it back, and then it makes front page headlines. That's marketing, right? Advertising is the flyers they put up.
Right. Yeah.
Marketing
requires no response. Right?
Yeah. Marketing is the get everybody's attention.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So anyways,
and hopefully without damaging somebody's property.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You don't want to do that.
But it's an elephant. They'll forgive you, right?
But so those are some great books. I would start out with those. Start really focusing on educating yourself in the areas of marketing versus advertising, and we will do
versus
plenty.
Sales, right?
Yeah, versus sales, which are all different things. Which we will talk plenty about all of those as we continue down in different episodes. Yeah,
and it's a good time to invite you if you have questions regarding your marketing or your sales approaches or what you're working on with advertising. Please go fill out the form at lockboxlounge.com. We would love to have you on the show. We can chat with you and maybe talk about potential solutions or give you ideas that maybe you haven't thought of or hadn't been trained to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, we look forward to chatting with you more about that.
Yep. We'll be right back after this.
All right.
All right, welcome back. Hey, so as we continue to talk about marketing, the importance of marketing, Rick's got some great information he's going to share with you guys here. So
amazing, and really the focus on the niche market piece too. And I think one thing as agents come in, I feel like when you become a real estate agent, you want to get your license. You have this passion. And sometimes it's about money, and maybe we talked about last episode, it's the easy money, right? I can go sell this property and make tens of thousands of dollars. But I found that oftentimes people have some dream, right? And maybe their dream is to just own their home or to invest one day. or maybe it is to make $1 million, whatever that is, right? But I want to encourage you, as you start to look at your niche market and become a specialist and whatever that passion is for you, that you try to learn as much as you can as part of that like piece. So example, I want to be an investor. I want to invest in apartment buildings. And so outside of me trying to sell and get to know apartment buildings, I want to know how to be an investor myself. If I'm an investor, what do I look for? How do I buy that? What kind of financing is available? What does the process look like? What are all the tools available? And the laws around, renting the apartments to people. Because when you're working with a potential client, it would be helpful for you to know some of those things. And I think that when you become a specialist in those kind of areas, whatever that area is, office space, parking lots, retail, strip centers, whatever it is, that if you aspire to do it and then you do get to actually do it someday, the knowledge and the experience that you get from that is so helpful for potential clients. And I think that they see it too. When you're talking to a potential client and you start talking to them about things that they already know, they realize, oh, you know what you're talking about, right? Because you've done it. Mm-hmm. And so I think the experience, whatever you can gain in the interim, until you can actually pull the trigger and invest in something, learn as much as you can about investing, about tenant law, about
you learn the language. You learn the language, and you know how to speak it and make yourself relevant to those people.
Yeah, and I found too that when I was working full time in apartments, when somebody called and say, "Hey, I want to ask you a question about your listing," I could tell within 5 seconds if they ever sold an apartment before, because the language was different. Right? When you start asking, "Hey, can we come and see the units?" No, it doesn't work that way.
They're
right?
occupied.
There's tenants that are living there.
Yeah.
And so there's certain nuances to those different transactions or the different types or geographies or size or
how about what's the cap rate?
Value. Yeah.
Right.
All those important numbers that you might not know if you've never done that thing.
Right.
So that specialized knowledge in the niche market, I think, is
and it's okay
huge.
to explore those as they come along. It's like I said, I've had
absolutely
as a probate specialist, I've had people say to me, "Can you help us buy a fourplex, or an apartment building, a 10-unit building we sold?" I had no idea, but guess what? They saw me as a specialist somewhere, which only opened that door. I was able to do that, and I learned.
Yeah,
I learned as I went along.
We all have to learn different things at different times.
Yeah, absolutely. So awesome. That's great. Hey, you want to tell some stories?
Yeah, let's do some story time.
You want to do some story time?
Yeah, you want to go first?
I'm
going
to go first. I got a short one here today.
All right.
So this was, had to be in the first 3 months that I was with my first real estate company. We used to do this thing called a broker preview. They used to. They still do. They don't work the same as they used to. It was a broker preview is when we would either the office where somebody took a listing would all on the same day after the office meeting go and look at all the new listings that were taken for that company, for that office, right?
Sometimes there'd be like a van or a bus,
sometimes,
right? You take like 20 people around the same thing, right?
Yeah. And then and if you were the listing agent, you would usually put out a spread. You might have sandwiches or just some fruit and some cookies and some snacks and things like that, just to get them to come, because real estate agents like free food. Well, we were on a broker preview one day, and we were at one house, and I had 2 other agents writing with me. We went. We were told by one of the experienced agents, go open the other house, right? The next one that was on the list, because it was hers as well. And I was like, yeah, fine, no problem. We were excited. We were eager to do it, right? So we get in the car. We get over there. I knock on the door. No answer. She said that the guy's supposed to be home. I put in my lockbox code, drop the key out. I'm opening the door, and as I open the door only opened about 4 inches. And there was it's like something behind the door. I'm like, what the heck is this, right? So I'm kind of pushing, and I'm yelling in the door.
And no chain or anything?
No chain, nothing, no. I'm like, hey, hello, anybody here, right? No response whatsoever. I'm like, okay. So I'm pushing, I can feel it's like, whatever, it's just kind of soft. So I just push a little bit, right? I get it open about 1.5 feet, and I stick my head in, and there's a guy laying behind the door.
Oh, no. Alive?
No.
Oh, are you kidding?
No. Guy died.
Oh, my gosh.
It was the owner of the property.
No way.
And apparently, we're assuming, he was heading towards the door I don't know, to open it for us to come, or he was heading towards the door because he was in the middle of having a heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
And just dropped dead right there. So
what'd you do?
called the police. Yeah, called 911. Yeah. And, I mean, what do you do? You're just like, oh my gosh. I mean, we tried to see if the guy, I had just not been out of the Army too long. I remembered all my field medical training and stuff. So we checked, no pulse. It was kind of sad. But I'm telling you this because you're going to have all kinds of things that happen when you're out there selling real estate. You just got to be prepared to deal with it and stuff. Look, death is part of a natural course of things. And, but we used to joke around and we'd go, hey, you know what? I got to call my clients right now because there's going to be a serious reduction on this price. Kidding. Don't send us hate mail. Anyway, what story you got, Rick?
I'll do a little aspirational one.
So instead of death
from the dead client, man. Yeah, it's kind of shocking.
Yeah, it was wild. Yeah.
So talking a little bit about niche markets and finding your target market and maybe learning about the thing that you want to do one day, right? So I remember learning the first time I was showing a fourplex. It was our listing at the time. I had a partner, and we were looking at I think it was Huntington Beach down by the bay. So like a multi-million-dollar fourplex, right? And talking to the buyer, they were walking through it. The inspector was coming through and checking all the units. And I learned that the buyer was going to be using FHA financing. And I was like, what FHA? That's your first home, right? Your home buying financing. This is a fourplex. And so I discovered that in FHA, we typically think of FHA as a first-time home buying tool. Usually they're a little bit more lenient on credit. And usually their rates are really good, but then you have to pay a little bit more because you have a high loan to value. Yeah. The mortgage insurance, yeah. And usually you can come in with a lower down payment, right? 3.5%, 5%, whatever it is. Yep. And so, but most people don't know that you could use that financing to purchase up to 4 units. Now you're using FHA, so you're saying that you're going to live in one of the units, right? You intend to live in one of those units and rent out the other 3. And I thought, hey, what an amazing tool. And so I love talking to students saying, hey, here's an opportunity. If you dream of being an investor and you don't have a home and you're trying to buy a home too, it's much easier to actually buy a fourplex using FHA if it's under the price limitations. The financing tool actually allows you to take the income from the other 3 units to help count towards your income to buy the property. So in theory, it's actually easier because you have more income coming in from the property itself to help you qualify to buy it.
Right.
And so I think that financing tools are amazing. Yeah. And that you can use, and of course, we said this earlier, right? You don't know what you don't know. But as you start researching and looking into these different tools, construction financing is another one that kind of in the same way, it allows you to use the future value of that property and to allow you to borrow that extra money to fix up or to build on a property.
Right.
And so I've been, over the years, problem solving through different transactions. I've found it pretty interesting to learn about different financing tools. Different people call it maybe creative financing because it's just not normal. Not that it's illegal or wrong. No. But just that it's outside the box.
When I got into this business, rates were much higher than they are now. People complain about rates now. The rates where we're at now is normal. Historically is normal.
5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that range, right?
And they were much higher when I got in. And so creative finance was definitely a thing. We had to have creative finance, do wraparounds and AITDs and do all kinds of other crazy stuff to get a house sold. So I agree with you, though. The whole thing, I actually had that same conversation with somebody earlier this week.
Oh, yeah?
About buying a fourplex and living in one of the units because she's kind of struggling with, I can't buy a house. Yeah. She lives by herself. Why not? Right?
Yeah, if you don't mind being a tenant in the building that you own, right, with other tenants.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Because sometimes I think people have this like, oh, it's not my space. I want my backyard and my... Yeah. But, sometimes you have to make those concessions when you want to get to where you want to go, right?
Oh, absolutely. No, I think it's a great way. And then you become, guess what? If you're smart about it, you get that property paid off a whole lot faster than you would if it's just your house and you're paying because you're out of your paycheck. The other people are paying for it.
Right.
And now you own this piece of property. And then what do you do? What do you do?
Well, you rent it out and buy another house.
Buy another one.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where you have multiple properties. I had one client, and, you talk about, I got to have my own space.
Right.
Our society in a lot of cases is, and I know somebody, I'm not going to say her name, but it was like, hey, mother-in-law may need to come live with us.
Oh, yeah.
Right, to take care of us. Big 2,700 square foot house, 4 bedrooms, and she says, where could we possibly put mother-in-law? There's no room, right? Because it's all decorated the way she wants. It's all laid out and everything. And it's like, well, okay, I'm sure we could figure something out. And I'm saying we, like it's me and my wife. I don't know. Maybe it is.
No names.
No names. But I had a client, and it was a Hispanic family, and I learned a huge lesson from them. These folks, they bought a house all together. 4 families all lived together in a 4-bedroom house. And we think about that like, oh, so crowded and all this stuff. Well, what they did was they took the income of 4 families, they all put it together, paid off that house in something like 5 years, right? And then what did they do? They bought another house. And instead of going, okay, now you guys own that one and you own that one, and no, they continued to take all their income and put it towards paying off that house. They sold it or bought it, or paid it off in about 5 years. And they kept doing this until they got a 5th property. Now they all have their own houses, all paid off.
Awesome.
They got a 5th house. That combined with the rent that they were making, they paid it off in 3.5 years.
Crazy.
Then they bought another one, paid it off in 3 years. Then they bought another one, bought it out in 2 years. I was selling these people, the head of the family, would call me. Every month they bought a house.
Wow.
Cash.
No way.
Because they had so many properties all bringing rental. But this is, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And you got to commit, right? Like it's going to take time. It's going to take a commitment, right?
Yeah.
But if you mentioned earlier those headlights, right? If you're aiming in that direction and you want to invest, you're going to do what you got to do to do it. Yeah. I want to make a note too about financing, because once you hit 5 units, actually those prices get cheaper.
Oh,
but the financing tool, because the financing tool is harder, commercial, they call it a commercial loan, right? With the idea of investing too, if you think about owning your home first and then going to buy your investment, then you're going to have to put down 25-30% down to buy that fourplex. But if you buy it first, you can buy it with a lot less down payment.
Exactly.
And so the idea of pooling funds to be able to have people in kind of a partnership, right, to be able to pool that money together as an investment, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, no, it is. Awesome. It's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
So what are your stories? What are your stories in real estate? We know you got some. Send it to us. Go to lockboxlounge.com, fill out the form, and send us your stories so that we can read them online. And we will see you guys, in the next episode, right?
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Hey, don't forget, we're looking for agents just like you to interview so we can help you figure out your biggest challenges. Go to lockboxlounge.com and request a free coaching session and be one of the stars on the show. Remember, if one person actually asked that question, there's many others who were afraid to ask it. So you'll be helping a lot of people while helping yourself. Follow us on your favorite media platform, and we'll see you next time at the Lockbox Lounge.